Good afternoon, genies, and welcome back to World of Workato here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're coming towards the end of day one of our fantastic 2 days of live broadcast here. My name's Savannah Peterson, bringing you all the goodies with Strechay. Pretty pumped that we get to have somebody who was on the keynote stage earlier today. We have Stephen from Samsara. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
I really enjoyed your keynote.
Oh, yeah?
And I found that really inspiring because I work across hardware and software within our organization and the devices that actually touch people. That's my area of expertise. And Samsara does precisely that. You are dealing with data, human interaction, developer interaction, a whole bunch of stuff, security, privacy, all across hardware and software. There's a lot of complexity, a lot of data, and you came in and talked about how you achieved results in just a few weeks working with Workato. So give us a little bit of history on Samsara, just in case everyone isn't as nerdy and obsessed with you as I am. And then and why this stage today was such a nice opportunity to talk about the results you've achieved.
Yeah, no, certainly. And the interesting thing about Samsara is we are in the physical operations space,
which is so cool.
As you said. And so we're dealing with real issues that these large infrastructure companies have around the world. Like, how do we ensure that their field workers are actually safe in their job sites, right? How do we ensure that we're driving sustainability for those organizations? And then how do we ensure that they're driving efficient business operations as well? And that's really what it's all about. At the heart, we're really a big data company, is really what we do. So we gather a lot of different data from across our entire network. I think I mentioned earlier on, last year alone, we gathered 14 trillion data points from across our 20,000 customers that we have out there. And by the way, that's doubling every year that we move forward as a company, which is kind of mind-blowing.
14 trillion data points.
14 trillion
Just in case folks didn't quite hear that. That's a lot.
That's a lot. And the interesting thing about it is, you think about the physical aspect of it, we're a hardware and a software company. We're actually installing physical IoT devices, these kind of cheap sensors. And they could be things like temperature sensors, they could be AI cameras in a transportation setting, they could be security cameras in a physical job site. And that's gathering all those signals and all that data, the 14 trillion data points, and shipping it back to our platform. And then we do some very sort of clever AI-related stuff, and then serve that up in terms of insights, again, to drive efficiency, sustainability, and safety for our employees, or rather for our customers. The interesting thing about the employee slant of this is we're also trying to mirror that internally, and that's where Workato comes into play, and the whole agentic play. And it's great to see how Workato has really evolved, and they're kind of reinventing themselves almost as a company now. Like everyone else, is really focused on AI and agentic. So for us, we're really taking advantage of all that innovation that was talked about in the keynote, in deploying these agents, and just creating a whole different experience for our employees.
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of led right to it about, some of the announcements, here at WOW, and really, as we look out into the future, how you're going to kind of take these back with you. Because, I know they're customer driven, so you probably knew about some of these prior to being here and things of that, and because you helped drive them. How kind of talk to some of those announcements and what you were excited about, and how you kind of see that playing out as now it's becoming GA and things that go
Well, it's interesting for us because I'm now a two-time customer of Workato, and gosh, I was the CIO of Slack prior to Samsara. And when we implemented Workato originally, it felt like two guys in a laptop, and talk about influencing the product direction. It was great for us actually back then because we could really influence the product direction.
How many years ago was that when you were with Slack?
That was, probably about 8 years ago that we started the implementation. So it was really early on in the company's life cycle. And actually they've maintained that ability to get that customer feedback loop and be agile about turning that into real product in terms of features within the product, which is great. And I've had preview to a lot, because we're an early adopter with the agentic, I've had preview to a lot of the things that they're doing. We've tested a lot of them out, and we've given them real feedback about how the product should change over the course of time. Good examples we talked about in the keynote are things like the IT Genie, and how we've doubled our ability to drive automation and IT service delivery, which is fantastic.
And you were able to do that in only a few weeks, correct?
Just a few weeks. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. We had a previous solution. It took us probably 6 months or so to implement. We ran it for about 2 years. It's one of the industry leaders. And then we replaced that within a few weeks, and we're able to double the level of automation. So it's kind of amazing that you start to layer in the orchestration with AI and the speed of implementation. It's a really powerful combination to enable us to move super fast and deploy these agents across the enterprise. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds so cool.
Yeah.
And so I love that we talked to, Workato's been talking a lot, one of the themes of the show obviously is about bringing agentic and bringing these genies into the core.
Yeah.
You have a lot of experience bringing things from the edge to the core. I mean, this is precisely your wheelhouse.
Exactly.
So how do you see this new potential that's being unlocked impacting those lives back at the edge? Obviously, safety, efficiency, what else?
Yeah. Oh gosh, we're implementing in the product, we're implementing a lot of AI features. We've been around for about 10 years. And we focused on AI from the beginning, right? And originally it was more classic AI. It was, ML, computer vision, those types of things in the physical world. And of course, in the last couple of years, like everyone else, we've been really leaning into generative AI. But you think about the knowledge base that we have, and we always talk about this flywheel of data and this mountain of big data that we have. The ability to actually interact with that mountain of data across 20,000 customers who likely are having the same challenges and problems that you are in the physical world within your industry. It's incredibly powerful. Actually loading that into an LLM, being able to converse with it and get the answers that you need is just amazing. So before it was always very transactional in nature. Now it's much more kind of conversational and warm. I mean, you think about, we're in the business of safety. We're in the business of, really changing people's lives ultimately. So that kind of interactivity and more sort of warm experience is really what we're shooting for ultimately.
So I want to kind of circle back a little bit, because you talked about the 14 trillion data points and doubling. So when we're here next year, you'll talk about the 28 trillion
or
plus.
Even more at the rate of
some odd.
everything right now, honestly.
One of the things that is also a big theme within AI is just the amount of data and how different data stacks and AI stacks have to go through a transition. And you kind of alluded to your actual monetization journey. Kind of talk us through what drove you to that point and this direction.
Yeah, it's interesting, and through the kind of transition of Workato as a company from a kind of an iPass company to more of an AI company, really within the last 12 to 18 months has been staggering, right? We've been through a very similar journey with Workato. We actually replaced MuleSoft, was our first kind of foray. I've been at Samsara now for 4.5 years, and pretty early on, it was obvious that we couldn't move at the speed that the company was moving at, right? Which is kind of the death knell for a CIO, right?
Oh gosh, I know. I just felt that pressure for you when you said that,
Exactly. And the whole goal for a CIO is to move with the rate and pace of change that's going on within the organization. Samsara is moving super fast, right, when you think about it. And so with all the things that we talked about around how we touch customers and all of that. And so for us, it was about how can we get to a platform, even from an iPass and an orchestration standpoint, that will allow us to be agile as we continue to grow the company. And then as we started to see them transform into more of an AI and agentic company, it was kind of the obvious next step. To me, the hard part in the enterprise is not necessarily the AI piece, right, and the reasoning piece. If you look at what's happening within AI, it's becoming a lot more commoditized. You can switch out these LLMs, and they're kind of equivalent nowadays, right? You get very similar results. The hard part, arguably, is actually taking action. It's the orchestration, it's the workflow. And Workato, that's kind of their bread and butter. They've got it all figured out. So we had their platform for orchestration in play. Then it was a natural extension for us to start to move into the agents and the AI piece.
And to bring in those genies. You said something on stage that I thought was inspiring, and you said that you were now starting to see the art of possible with them, and you were excited to do more. Give me your wild dream fantasy, not even fantasy, but as was also said there, you get what if you aim high, you can get that with agents and genies. So give me your dreamy.
Gosh, I think about almost like ecosystems or fleets of agents in the future that are working with one another. And there's limited interactivity that you can get today, even around that. And actually Carter in the keynote, the CIO of Workato, showed some of that, where you had customer support genies talking to data genies and things of that nature. imagine extending that out across an entire network of genies or agents that are out there, right? And again, you're seeing some of this with companies like Replit and Cursor, where you can actually just give it a prompt at a very high level, build me an architecture, build me a product, and it will go off and do the work for you. Versus you have to be really specific about building the components yourself today and then bringing it all together, right? This still requires a lot of technical work. So in a future world, and we're probably a couple of years away from that, being able to give those high-level prompts around building products and building architectures, I think that's where this is going to go.
It's going to be really exciting. What types of things do you think that will enable for your customers, or what pain points do you think on the Samsara side that will eliminate? What won't be a problem in a couple of years?
You know, the interesting thing about this is going to be the impact it makes to the overall organization, right? And every company is thinking about this. What does it mean to your workforce? How do we kind of upskill people to think differently about kind of reimagining work and reimagining their processes, and then kind of reskill and retrain people ultimately within the enterprise? And people are kind of threatened by that. But, you know, the good news about Samsara is we're a very AI-forward, AI-literate organization because we've been investing in AI for so long. And so people are really embracing it. That's the cool thing about it. And moving in that direction, figuring out how can I skill myself up so I'm ready for this shift.
How do you look at, because I think also some of the, beyond the people aspect, was the return on investment aspect was also on display today.
Yeah.
And what kind of KPIs do you look at when you're taking on, and because you, as the CIO, you have probably a longer list than, you know, what to do with projects people want you to do and solve.
The wish list
AI.
is not short.
It's not, and it's not getting any shorter.
Correct.
How do you look at the KPIs, and what have been some of the KPIs that you've looked at?
Yeah, I mean, the most important KPIs, and it's not dissimilar to what we talked about in the keynote with Carter and VJ, it's really the business KPIs. I mean, that's really what we're measured on, and I measure my people on, right? We're not implementing IT projects for IT projects' sake. They have to be tied to a business metric. I'll give you one example. We implemented a sales Genie effectively fairly recently, and it was amazing. Actually, it's probably the most popular thing that I've done in the 4.5 years that I've been CIO in terms of like adoption within the sales organization. We get about 50,000 prompts on a monthly basis, and we have about 1,000 people in our sales organization, so it's massive adoption. But the reason it's so successful is all of a sudden we connected it to our Samsara knowledge base. Our sales folks can get access to all of the Samsara product knowledge from a technical perspective. It can write them white papers about different industry implementations that we're going after. And our business is fairly complex, right? All customers are not created equal. You think about implementing, you know, these hardware products, these IoT devices, marrying that with our software. It's been a game changer for them. And in fact, you think about the KPI associated with that, ultimately sales is all about attainment, right? And we found that the expert users who are using the product often, say 2 or 3 times a day, achieved 20% higher attainment. So we did a causality analysis quarter over quarter, 20% return for those expert users, which is phenomenal. It's just really amazing. So we want more of that, and you know, those types of business metrics that we can really drive success off.
And that is, I love, I just want to follow up on that because we all know what it's like when a new technology or tool comes into an organization. Not everybody is super excited to have to either upskill or train themselves or shift their current workflow. You said that this has been the most exciting and popular. It's making you, you know, popular. You're homecoming king right now in the Genie world within your sales organization internally. Do you think that it was the ease of use or the general culture around it, the way that you delivered that into the org, word of mouth? What do you think was so successful for that popularity?
I think it's a combination of things. I mean, it's important to create a culture of AI within the organization. What does that really mean, right? And I think for us, it's driven from the top down. We are a big data and an AI company within the physical operations space. And so our CEO, he's driving that message. Not only are we doing this externally, we're really going to drive productivity internally. And that can mean everything from, you know, sales attainment. It can mean new features are rolled out much faster. We're getting product to market much more quickly. We're moving into new geographies and creating new business models in kind of record time. And that's how we kind of measure success around this as well. But it's it's not the same answer for every company. We have a champions network in place that are really driving enablement, and there's individuals from each of the functions involved in that champions network, and these are individuals who just have a passion for AI and how to implement that technology within the context of their given function, right? And every function is not created equal. The use cases in finance are very different from the use cases in supply chain, and are very different from the use cases in sales, right? So the people who are going to know how to apply the technology best are the people that are closest to those use cases. So we really had to get those individuals involved. So it's kind of like a top-down, as they say, and a bottoms-up as well.
So it was a combo. It was generally good communication,
exactly.
Good buy-in. And
of course you have to have a great user experience, and it has to be capable, and it has to deliver the results in the technology itself. But those cultural kind of softer things around enablement clearly are very important also.
I was going to say, because I think one of the things that we've also seen is getting from POC to production with agents has been tough for some organizations. Yep. What do you look at as a piece of advice that you would give to other CIOs about where to start? Because again, I think it ties back into what you just said, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the things we talked about, again, if you can get executive buy-in, and hopefully most companies nowadays are thinking about this, and there's some drive from the top, right? I would create a champions network and go down that path just in the same way that we did as well. You have to experiment, and there's no question about it. Before we actually landed on Workato, we've experimented with all kinds of agentic frameworks, and everybody has one, right? You can spend your life just trying to use these agentic frameworks. And so, experiment, figure out what works for you. I think Workato is a great option, but also start with the highest impacting use cases. For us, it was sales, and IT was a great proving ground before we actually moved on to the sales use case. But, incredible results that we saw from a very important use case, and then build on that success as you move forward.
I love it. It's an exciting time for you. So how are you going to continue that popularity momentum that you currently have?
It's a great question. I mean, we're expanding, we're adding more features and functionality to the existing sales Genie that we have in place, but everybody wants one now, right? As you can imagine. And what we've done is actually expand the sales Genie across the entire organization. So it's not just sales focused now. The product folks are interested in getting similar answers from our knowledge base about how they best address customer needs and things of that nature. We're connecting it to other systems inside the enterprise. So it's almost becoming like the Samsara GPT, right?
Oh, yeah.
For the organization. So it's much broader than sales. So to get back to the kind of vision for the future, eventually that Samsara GPT will talk to kind of a network of genies that are behind the scenes, but will be branded by Samsara GPT, and we'll have one user experience that they can drive that from.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, knowledge is power, and I can imagine you're unlocking a lot internally. All right, I have two final questions for you. Speaking of people, let's take your Samsara hat off just gently and briefly set it on the table. If you could design a Genie right now for your personal life,
oh my gosh,
what problem would you solve for yourself or your family?
Well, I'm I'm actually going on vacation on Thursday. And so my idea of a vacation is just taking it easy and not having too many things organized. My wife and my daughter, on the other hand, like to have everything organized every day.
Sounds like my boyfriend and I planning our trip to Italy next month.
So if I had a Genie that could just design things for them and then take them away for their organized vacation where I could just kind of chill out, I'd be very happy. So that's very personal and an immediate one for me. Sorry, what was the second question?
No. That really was the question. It was more about the personal life. But I think that's so fun. It's really interesting. I've asked that question a couple times on the desk today. A lot of us obviously travel a lot, and we want to optimize the travel experience for our loved ones and for everybody else. I'm with you on the unstructured time, though, my friend. I think we are so used to having such structured days that it's really important. You want to say hi to your wife and daughter?
Hi.
I hope you all have a really great vacation. That's super important. Okay, Stephen, last question for you. Everything's moving really fast, super exciting. When we're sitting on this desk, or you're giving that keynote again in 2026, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't yet say today?
Oh my goodness. I think that just the acceleration of innovation I can't imagine. I mean, you think by how far we've come within the last few months, where we'll be in a year from now. But I hope we're going to be in a situation where, again, we're closer to that network of agents that are out there that are really working together. And we actually have more sort of macro components versus micro components that will allow us to do that. So let's see what the next year brings, but that's really what we're shooting for.
It's so exciting. We cannot wait to keep the conversation going with you, Stephen. I want to talk to you about some stuff. I got a lot of ideas for storytelling about all that you're doing. You and the team are doing a great job at Samsara, and I don't say that to all of our guests. I'm just going to be honest about that. Right. So it is truly a joy to get to chat to you. And thank you, Rob, for yet another great session. We've had so many good interviews.
I was going to say, it's easy with great guests. So.
It really is. We're going to have a whole flock of great guests again tomorrow. And we've still got one more segment for you here left today. We've got our insights. Hope you're all having as much fun as we are in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here at World of Workato. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.